Richard, how are you?
Very well. You're looking great. You
Asante
do not
sana.
having to use an emoji. We can already see how you're looking. You're looking fantastic.
Sawa.
Very good. Ladies and
How are
gentlemen,
you?
very well. You're looking great. You
Asante
do not
sana.
having to use an emoji. We can already see how you're looking. You're looking fantastic. There's something, Jacinda, there. Very good. Let us have those reactions. How your day was. Thank you, Roslyn. Thank you, Kazungu. Thank you. Peter Wanyela, looking forward to a great training and discussion. Thank you very much. And even before I forget, thank you very much for those people who made it to Meru. We really had a very, very interesting time. We learned, we did a lot of networking. We enjoyed the beauty of Meru. Next time when we say that we are on a road trip, don't miss. And thank you, Ann Nyamu, thank you very much for saying that you had a great day. Now, without wasting a lot of minutes, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce two of our main sponsors this particular season. We have, let me see. We have Herbert Zake and K2. K2 is found in Rwanda. They deal with human resource consultancy, training, and many other things that are related to HR. So when you're in Rwanda, look for K2 human resource. Then when you want to discover your strengths, what are your key competencies? Look no further other than Herbert Zake, who will be able to assist you discover. But tonight we are going to be educated or be retrained on how to handle or how to understand the famous black tax, the one that comes around 25th, 26th, and you are unable to manage or how are unable to respond to it. How do you give the money? Do you give the money and feel bad? We have a counseling psychologist, and she's no stranger to this discussion. She has been here in other episodes, and she's going to give us some of the strategies of dealing with black tax. Nancy Abiru, karibu sana. How have you been?
I've been well, Richard. Asante sana. You know, it's the tax month.
Yes.
Yeah. But then with black tax, we are always paying every month. And then there has been heated discussion on firstborns, yeah? So I don't know whether firstborns are the ones who bear the biggest burden.
Statistically, yes. Yes.
Right. So that's the discussion we will have today. Yeah. So I'll try and share my screen. Let me see. Start broadcast. It's loading on my end.
Yeah, we are waiting for it.
All right, fantastic.
On my end, I can't see if it is loading.
It's quite loading on my end, quite a lot.
Okay.
Let me stop it. And then I think I'll share this again. So bear with us, our viewers, because this will be a beautiful discussion. And hoping by the end of it, you will be empowered. Can you see it on your end?
It has started, yes.
Awesome. Can you see the presentation?
Is it a video or
No,
slides?
it's a slide.
We can't see the slides, although we are seeing
Something.
some indication that you are sharing something.
Okay. Mambo ya technology ni ngumu.
We can continue giving our thoughts on black tax. How many of us have gotten the message of black tax? What do you think about it? Tell us what you think.
And do you feel guilty when you are burdened with that, or you're expected to give every month? Give us your view.
You can say yes for guilty. You can say no for not feeling guilty, so that we can sample some of the thoughts that you have. Do you feel guilty? Yes. Do you feel that it's a thing that you need to do? Now we can see it. You can, yes. Go to slide 1.
Great. Yay, we figured it. Awesome. So now to our conversation, what is black tax? And I really try to make this relevant because black tax refers to an African practice, right? Because we have the Ubuntu requirement of when you're successful, then your whole community depends on you to uplift them. So we have a lot of people carrying that burden with them, and it having an impact into their everyday life. And in my practice, we look at how are you affected on your day-to-day life, and what are those things that are affecting you? What ways can we support you to have skills and tools so that whatever affects you, you can be able to overcome it or deal with it in a sustainable manner? So the definition of black tax, we asked you whether you have ever helped someone financially and felt guilty after, or wished that you did not help them. What brought that thought to you? Was it because they were not grateful? Was it because you created an expectation? Or was it because it took away from you? Right? Please think about that, and you can feed that on our chat and let us see what else. So our definition of black tax is that it is financial support given to family and community members. It's not limited only to family. It goes to community members. We have people who have parents in the villages who are expected to continuously contribute in harambes, in churches, and they are burdened by the society. Whatever their burden is, you're then expected to support them in those extra demands. So your success becomes a village expectation in terms of finances. And this is why we say one person often becomes the family, society, or community safety net, right? And when you know you're dependent on, the psychological toll and the financial and emotional toll can be quite hefty. So having thought about it from a holistic perspective, I define black tax as the emotional, social, and financial obligation experienced by individuals who feel responsible for supporting family or community members, often at the expense of their own financial goal, well-being, and future security. That's the holistic view. But how do these things come into play? So if you feel guilty, why do you continue, offering this expected financial obligation on you? You probably do this because you say you love the people you're taking care of, or you do it because you have gratitude. There are people who feel that their parents really sacrificed for them, and the least they can do is support these parents. There are those who do it out of loyalty, especially when we talk of Harambes, church expectation, community giving. You do it out of loyalty because you feel this is where I come from. And now, as we prepare for 2027, we do know we have friends who want to get into politics or who are already in politics, and they'll be coming asking for our financial support. And most of the time, those who will be giving, they are giving out of loyalty. There are times when you're obligated because there is an ongoing ailment, maybe. There is an ongoing constant need within the family, so you feel obligated. Or you continue to give because your identity is tied on that giving. So when you give, you feel a sense of belonging, a sense of love, right? So those are the reasons why people continuously are stuck on black tax. Now, when you think about black tax, there is an emotional toll. Besides a financial toll, there is an emotional toll. And that emotional toll looks like survivor's guilt, having to carry guilt because you succeeded. So you feel guilty that your family or your dependents are not at the point where you would want them to be. The other reason or emotional toll would be going through anxiety. Every time we arrive around it, 20, 15, 10, 5, whichever it is, there is a constant demand. There is a constant requirement. And the more you continue being successful, the more the basket of need continues increasing, And when you're going through anxiety, there will be what we call burnout. Burnout because you're unable to take a break. Your mind keeps running on the needs that you have to meet. Your emotions are exhausted, maybe because there's no replenishment, there's no acknowledgement, there's no appreciation. Then another emotional toll will be where you have difficulty enjoying success. And how would this difficulty look like? You feeling guilty or unable to even upgrade, maybe buy yourself a better car, maybe take yourself on holiday, maybe pay for a skill that you require because the financial expectation you feel the burden towards supersedes what you want to do. So you are unable to enjoy success. Or if you happen to say go on holiday, you have a big burden of justifying, or even maybe that time you block everyone from your WhatsApp, so they don't see your status or your socials. So that is the difficulty in enjoying, rather than feeling that I've succeeded, I should be able to be free and I should be able to invest, I should be able to breathe. You have difficulty enjoying that success. So black tax is definitely a toll. And it's a toll that brings on family conflicts. Whether this family is the people you work with and you call them family, whether it is a family of choice, your nuclear family or your extended family, black tax does bring conflict. And it brings conflict because there are those who feel more entitled than others towards your help. So they feel like I should get this first. Or if you give somebody that was not in your initial list, then there is, aggression that comes from family members. So this creates conflict within families. Need to say, there is a generational burden that comes as a result of black tax. If you're successful and you continuously give and give, you do not invest in yourself. I want to give an analogy here. Imagine yourself as a tree that produces fruits, that has beautiful leaves and branches, that is grounded on a very nutritious area, which has good vegetation. You are this successful person. You notice the most beautiful thing. So you are noticed because you're that tree. Now, the burden or the requirements from family members and from the extended society is breaking. Imagine that tree. Every time somebody requires something from you, they come and break your branch. If one side of the tree branches are broken, the tree will not produce seeds, it will not produce fruits. So it cannot assure of continuity, right? Imagine again, when family members continue requiring from you, it is them coming to dig away the soil you have, right? So you have no nutrients. What will happen eventually? Your offspring or your offsprings or your family of choice will end up suffering because they do not have any more produce coming from you. Even you as a person don't see any continuity financially, emotionally, or psychologically because of this burden that you have, right? Let's move on. So when we think of that, and we cannot run away from obligation because one, we are raised in a certain way. What do? We all need to think of a healthy way or view to support individuals within a family, right? Why do we talk about this healthy view? Because we want to make supporting sustainable, and we want to give dignity to those who depend on us. So we do not want to continue enabling, we want to empower. So it's, you call yourself for a meeting and ask yourself, how can I empower that person who asks me for 200 shillings every time? How can I empower them? Because if you don't empower them, you're just handing them the fish and you're not taking them to the lake, right? So we support because we want to preserve dignity, because we want to promote independence, because we want to remain sustainable. You want to be that tree whose branches are not broken, because you want to protect your well-being and you want to protect their well-being. You want to build family resilience, right? Resilience in that when people are productive within a family, they contribute more. So in this case, this contributing more is pulling resources together, just like the way insurance works. Insurance will ask you to pay a premium, small amounts every other month or annually, but the payout will be hefty. Now, when families are productive and they are able to pull resources together, the generations that come after them find a bit of wealth and are able to launch themselves better than the person who has been expected to support the whole clan. So you're able to build resilience. The other thing is you are able to encourage shared responsibility, right? But when you don't do it from a sustainable perspective, there cannot be shared responsibility. It is one person who carries that. You are the only one who is expected to continuously be resilient. So imagine the amount of trauma, the amount of anxiety, the amount of anger, the amount of resentment that you will continuously carry because this burden is on you. Imagine what happens to your biological health. Your well-being is not protected because the way your mind perceives your environment, it interprets its own environment, right? So you create, in a way, it's like repeating toxicity because of the anxiety, because of the worry that comes due to this responsibility. You're unable to remain sustainable and you're unable to be independent. And this is where you will find where people are in relationships, there will be always conflict on where does the responsibility end on these expected demands from your family, from your society, or from your community, and when do you start focusing on us, or when do we start focusing on projects that we can start work on? And on this point, I'd like to mention, when this is not well handled, you find that partners live a secretive life because one partner does not feel safe with the way money is managed by the other partner. So they then start investing privately, hoping to have a better future without you, because with you, it sort of will get depleted. And that is not a healthy place to be. And then when we look at dignity, even yourself, your own dignity, there are people who don't go back to their homes years and years because they feel when I go, what I'll be asked to do, what will be expected of me, I would rather not because it's stressful. I'd rather support from far, you know? Now, having looked at all that, there are still people who feel caught up because black tax is an emotional currency. They carry or they look at those transactions as having some emotional meaning. And to them, they are spreading love, they are showing care. But it's not always interpreted the same way from those who are receiving it. So this is the point I want to invite you, and I'll ask Richard to please read some of the comments that come from these questions. Who in your life do you feel financially responsible for? Like, let's just be open. Are you responsible for your mother? Are you responsible for your father? Are you responsible for your grandmother? Are you responsible for your children? Are you responsible for the children that are orphaned, maybe from a relative? Who do you feel responsible for financially? Then, when you're giving, what emotions come up when you think about reducing or stopping that support? Let's type in our answer. What emotions come up, right? And when you're giving, are you giving from a point of abundance or from a point of obligation? Richard, do we have any feedback?
We have Liz saying that she only gives children. We have Abad Zake saying my spouse and children. We have Beji saying I'm only responsible for my children until a certain age as an obligation. Evelyn says my mother. We have Nora Saeta saying my siblings and parents. Evelyn Wanjiko saying my mother.
All right. Thank you so much for those feedback. What emotions come up when you think about stopping or reducing that support? And if you have ever been obligated to meet certain financial responsibilities, what emotions were you going through when you go beyond the immediate family? And I like the person who says their mother because, yes, it is a reality and it is the world we are living in. Richard, what do we have?
Annie is saying, I feel so annoyed when someone comes again and again. Then if I don't assist, I feel bad.
Thank you, Anne.
Peter has said giving, emotionally drained.
Yes.
Okay. Who else has contributed?
All right.
Phoebe has said, I get annoyed when there is no so much entitlement. She gets annoyed because of entitlement.
Yes.
Miriam, some feel so entitled. Liz says frustrating. Evelyn Wanjiko says guilty.
Right. Super, super. Thank you, guys. Keep that coming. Keep that coming. Now, all those emotions that have been highlighted, if the original intentions and the reasons why we give, remember we talked of love, we talked of because it's an obligation, there is a need. If the original reason was positive, then why does this give you a negative emotion? You know, it gives you a negative emotion because of that lack of sustenance. All right. So now, do you give when you're giving? Are you giving from abundance or from obligation? Do we have any answers for that?
There was one about obligation. I have not seen abundance yet.
Yes.
Phoebe has said obligation. Liz, people abuse that. People are saying, most people are saying obligation. Most people, I can't see abundance. Maybe we need prayers for this.
I like this, and I'm happy that people are able to point out, and you can be able to reflect and actually see what this is. So if it is from a point of obligation, right? It already tells you it's a burden. You are not a burden as a person already to have excess to give, right? So there are strategies which we can mention as we continue on how to make it healthier for you and how to make it healthier for them. Now, remember, somebody has said when they give, there is an expectation, there is no gratitude, there is entitlement. And that entitlement leaves you in this cycle, which we call the rescuer cycle. And a rescuer cycle is when one person decides to help others. And they are thinking, I'm helping from a point of love, but they end up overextending themselves financially. I know of people who used to take loans because in their church they have been appointed as deacons and they have to contribute, but they don't have those resources. So they take loans, they burden their families to give what is allocated to them by the churches, right? And we know of people who take loans to maybe go and change seats at home, in their parents' home. You want to go change the furniture. You're taking loan, you've not saved, you're not yet there, but you are burdening yourself. You're putting your future, you're trading with your future and with the possibility that you will continuously have an income. What about if there comes an instance when that income stops and you have these loans dependent on you? Then you fall into what we call burnout and resentment, right? So a rescuer or somebody who is giving from a point that is unsustainable will end up being resentful and will end up going through a burnout. Then after going through all that, this is the point people come and say, hey, Nancy, I think I'm going through depression. I've had anxiety. I used to have this whenever I'd be told to give money, but now I'm feeling nothing. I'm not motivated. I'm just there. I'm just tired. I see no hope. They are going through guilt. They are going through shame because this is the cycle they are looped on. And after the guilt and shame, they think, let me help more. I will recover myself. And that is those who think that giving reflects on their identity. So you're stuck. You think, let me help. When I help, I'll be happy. They will think I'm still successful. They'll still think I'm doing well. And you're not living your reality, right? That's the burden of black tax. But black tax can be sustainable. That's my message. On your mental health, I have touched on this a little bit. And I'd like to repeat, I talked of depression as one thing. There is burnout, Burnout is feeling like you have no energy, you have no hope, you cannot think, you're not able to think outside the box. There could be even options suggested to you, but you're like, what for? I don't have the psychological and physical motivation to do it. I've talked of anxiety, where you worry, you have fear of the unknown, the fear of the future, because the reality just keeps asking and asking from you, so you cannot see anything different. I talked of resentment and I talked of relationship conflict. Now, the person who said that there is entitlement, even when they are relating with that person, if you meet this person in a social gathering, you usually decide, which mask am I going to wear? Because I don't want to show this person how I actually feel, Now that's a burden, Right. So now, after looking at all that information, how do we support ourselves, And is it possible to set boundaries? And what will these boundaries communicate? And how will these boundaries help you? Let's start with the definition. I like to bring it home better rather than just giving the textbook definition of a boundary. For our topic, a boundary is where your responsibility as a person ends and the other person's responsibility begins. Let that sink in. The kind of boundary I'm talking about is where your responsibility ends and their responsibilities begin. Just like that fence is, if my compound or my house was on the other side of the fence, my responsibility in taking care of that compound is where that fence begins. And maybe the county government has now the responsibility outside my fence, Think of it even with your tasks at work. Think of it even within your homestead. Where does your responsibility end? And where does the other person's responsibility begin? Because we should be able to pour into each other, right? Not only one person pouring out and expected to pour and not having anyone feeling back. So imagine you have like 8 glasses on a table with half, each glass with half level water, and you start pouring. And we want to ensure by the end of that cycle, every glass has half the same amount when you began, right? But if on that table you had an empty glass and you expect to have the same level of water, then it will not be possible. The empty glass would have taken away from, right? So we want to be able to bring glasses on the table that have almost the same amount of water. And this is where now you teach sustainability in your giving. Let's continue and see. So boundaries are a framework that allow love, they allow support, and they allow generosity to remain healthy and sustainable over time, right? You can see that person with the golden fish and a fishing rod. If they catch their first golden fish, should they keep it for themselves or should they give it away? Please give us your answer as I read what this other boundary is. So another definition of boundary is where your responsibility for the other person's end. That was my beginning definition. And where their responsibility begins for themselves. If you fish gold and you go tell somebody, I was able to get gold, a goldfish somewhere, if you find someone who says, oh, could you take me there? I'd also like to catch some. That's a person you take on with you, right? But if you have the mind of, no, I don't want to show them where the goldfish is, you want to keep the goldfish to yourself, then they will keep eating what you go to fish. I hope that makes sense, right? So it's for you to decide what kind of system am I going to put in place? Am I going now to own the pond or the lake where they are coming to fish so that I can tax them on what they get so that I continue building on me as they are also having because they didn't have anyway, right? Or am I going to tell them, come along with me, and when we fetch, say, 100 fish, I'm going to give you 5 so you can keep 95. It's up to you to decide what system works best for you that creates sustainability. So it does not deplete you and it does not deplete the source and it does not take advantage of that person, right? Why are we saying it's important to have boundaries? Because when you don't have boundaries, you will be impacted financially, where you will have debts, you will have delayed goals, you will have reduced wealth creation. Okay? We are in media, June. And most of the time, a lot of people will start the year with goals. So there will be physical goals, there will be financial goals, there will be spiritual goals, there will be, social goals, skills goals, empowerment goals, whatever it is, right? If you were to take stock of what you wanted to achieve this year, right? Or if you were to take stock of the last 3 years where you would have wanted to be, would you say that you have actually attained that? Or would you say that you face some challenges? And if you face some challenges, is the delay because of the financial impact? So it affects your emotions, it affects your motivation, it affects your focus. So your direction gets deviated. right? Most of the time, our goals are about, making ourselves whole. And as you become whole, you require more resources. You want to build wealth. So when you don't have boundaries, you will have these challenges. Now, there are people who think that boundaries are negative, or there are people who have had experiences where you've set up a boundary and it has been fought back. They found ways to manipulate you and move you from what objective you had. So I'd like to say, or to define boundaries as, they do not show selfishness. They are not disrespectful. Boundaries are not punishment. And boundaries are not projection. They are not lack of love. They are not abandonment. Healthy boundaries protect relationships. And these relationships is in plural, yours included, you as a person in that relationship. When you talk of relationship, it's not other people out there. We are looking at you as a person as well, So, how can you set up boundaries that are not selfish, that are not disrespectful? Because there's always that guilt of, if I don't do this, then I'm a bad person. They are going to say that I'm not successful, that I've started, struggling, So you feel like you will not be showing love because you have boundaries. Now, boundaries can be rigid, they can be flexible, and they can be porous. I'd like to explain that. Rigid boundaries are hard stands that someone can put, like that tree whose branches are broken. It can have hard stands of, I no longer will produce fruits, because whenever I produced fruits, that's when they come to me. So a hard stand to you would look like, I need to first build my savings to a certain level, or I need to first be able to get to a certain level of income, in order to take this. Or it can be, I'm going to rework my budget and have a fixed amount that is allocated to black tax. And if that amount gets depleted on date 2 or date 5, anyone who comes after that has to wait for the next cycle. That's a hard stand. A flexible stand is where I could support here and expect them to pay me back, and they give me their word that they are going to give back. And when I'm in need, I know that they are going to also come through for me. That's a flexible stand. A porous stand is where you support, let me use a church analogy. So you support a particular person who is in a different group, and when you are required to contribute in that church, they support you in that, right? So that's a porous stand. And that's how these boundaries can end up not being the things we've listed here, right? Setting boundaries says, I could let you in, or I actually don't want you in today. I'd like to have my space, right? So it expresses what you can do and what you cannot be able to do, right? How can you begin to practice setting boundaries? I'd like you to reflect on that, because if you shared or you thought about a way that you can start setting boundaries, then we can be able to categorize it on whether it's a flexible, a rigid, or a porous boundary. Okay? Do we have any feedback before I come to this point, Richard?
We have feedback from Dr. Faith, who says a boundary is a way of ensuring that support remains sustainable. You cannot carry everybody's financial future at the expense of your own. And we
Correct.
have Jackie Ajang, who says, very helpful discussion. I'm healing. What? You should be able to give your number, Nancy.
I'm happy to hear. Right. Mhm. Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome.
Mm.
Great. Thank you to the doctor who has given us that definition of boundaries. And it is very true. You know, there is a limit as to how much someone can be able to carry, not should carry, can be able to carry. And when you realize what your ability is, when you self-audit what your ability is, then you create systems that support you to be productive, right? And that can also meet all these other needs and their self-needs. System, you know, when you establish a system, you're able to pick out where losses could be coming in, where an appreciation could be coming in, where entitlement could be coming in, right? So sustainability, we have seen organizations like the ones which used to fund rural development. They would come and say, maybe a group of women, they are in need, maybe they don't have food, but they need to be taught a skill. Then they can use that skill to create a trade. And with the trade, they can be able to feed themselves and to support their families, right? So it's important to audit also the people you're supporting. What skills do they need, or what skills are they lacking, so that you can support them to get that skill for a period of time. So healthy support is saying, I'm going to be able to do this for a period of time. Cap it at that, so that it's not just open to whenever or wherever, right? Super. Now, and I'm happy with the person who is healing. Thank you so much for that feedback. So families can shift from being dependent to empowerment. Okay? Empowerment, an empowered person is an enabled person. Is someone who is able to see, they are motivated, they are able to create, right? So we need to move the dependence of the family to empowerment. There is usually a very interesting, what do you call this? Post that goes around December where they say, people who go to the rural village, you know, you go to Kisii or Bungoma, you know, or Meru where you guys were, you come back with your car loaded with ndomas, maize and everything. But when you went, the car was empty. Right? What that post fails to say is, over that whole year, the amount you have been giving, even what you're bringing back is less than a 10. You know? So think of yourself as that car that is loaded. When you're needed to give, you're always like that car that is loaded, but when you're coming back, you're a shell. So it's important to ensure that your system, your families, your people who you care for are able to continuously be sustainable. The insurance analogy that I gave, that all of you can be able to pull into resources. For example, if you're told to contribute 1,000 as a family, you know, sometimes a family is not just you. You have siblings, you probably have cousins, you know, let's not be shy to ask for some of these things that can be done communally, just the same way you have been expected to give to a community. So, a sustainable support model is moving from rescue to empowerment. Now, the questions you need to ask is, when you're giving, you know, are you giving in a sustainable way? Remember, I told you about the fisherman who goes to fish. If he continues to give the fish, is he being sustainable to his own energy, mental strength? He's not. Does this preserve your dignity? Does your giving preserve your dignity? Does it preserve that person's dignity? If something was to happen to you today, and you're the one who is the safety net of the family, what would happen to that family? You know, a lot of times we have, the African mentality where the man is the provider, he's the one who works. The day he goes retirement and he never taught his family to be sustainable, what happens? The whole family goes into shock. Imagine that firstborn daughter or that firstborn son who takes care of the entire family. The minute they get sick and they cannot continue working, what happens to the family? So it's good to ask yourself what you're doing. Is it sustainable? Is it preserving dignity? Maybe while you can be productive, in your productive years, the giving elevates the family to a certain level, right? But in case of anything, will that elevation or social or lifestyle that you have been giving these people be sustainable, or will their dignity be affected? Because we've not preserved that dignity. Does this encourage independence? Are you seeing motivation from the people you're supporting in wanting to be better, in wanting to make for themselves, rather than just expect? And it can be a very touchy conversation when people want to just challenge those who've been dependent on them. Then, is the support you're giving, is the money you're giving support, or are you always rescuing? Because rescuing is like that boy who cried wolf. The first time the villagers ran, and they realized it was just a joke. The second time, the third time, and eventually, when he asked for help, there was no one who came, So rescuing can make you end up in a position where you no longer can help because your stream has run dry, right? But if you're supporting to sustenance, even when your stream runs dry, they can fill back your bucket or your cup, okay? We need to support people in a way that empowers them. So when you think about black tax, that tax should create empowerment. The same way we try to hold our government to task, we ask them, we pay all this tax. Why are our roads not working? What else do we ask the government? So even you, if you're paying tax, what are you holding them accountable to? Because those conversations need to be heard and to be held. I brought this one here because I felt it's important to talk about identity at a deeper point, because identity can be lost because of the dependence or expectation, and it can also be lost because you do not have boundaries. When you become the provider, there is a loss of identity. You're no longer, like you, Richard, for example, if you are the provider, they don't see Richard, they see the provider. That's the identity they give you. And the responsibility of being the provider, the day you feel like you cannot provide it, you will interpret it as a failure. It will affect your self-worth, because your self-worth becomes tied to giving. The fear of disappointing others becomes the drive. Your personal needs are ignored, I used to pay black tax, funnily, not in giving resources, but I love to travel. And anytime I'd travel, my friends would be like, oh, please bring me perfume. Please bring me what. So even my own time to shop for myself, I'd forget shopping for myself because I need to make my friends happy. Yet who took the trip, So personal needs can get ignored. Then we have anxiety. Anxiety because maybe the stream of income has reduced, so your support has to reduce, so you end up being anxious. Or your personal responsibilities have increased, right? And so you have to reduce that support, and so you are stuck in a loop of anxiety. So it's good to reflect about, because your identity, when you talk about identity, it's good to reflect about who you are. Are you beyond what you provide, or are you what you provide? Is your identity what you provide, or are you beyond what you provide? Think about it from your personal perspective, and also think about it from those who depend on you. You know, are you important to them because you provide? You know, if you are not to provide, would you be important to them? Or what happens? Okay. Right. So I'd like to close this conversation before we take in any question that has come with that boundaries are not barriers to love. They are a framework that allows love, support, and generosity to remain healthy and sustainable over time. That is what I hope you have taken home. Okay? When you have boundaries, you're able to love, you're able to support, you're able to be generous in a healthy and sustainable way over time. And then a boundary is where your responsibility for another person ends and their responsibility begins for them, for themselves. Can we be able to teach those who depend on us what their responsibility is? Okay. We know a lot of people who maybe are in the US, you know, around the area I grew up. A lot of people used to travel to the US and they'd send money to their families, and a lot of money, because they are hoping that their families are doing what they've asked. So there was one who sent for money to be built, for her to be built a house, land to be bought, and her to be built a house. She was told, there is land, we've bought you. But when she came, there was no land, there was no house. Yet that person had toiled over 15 years. Imagine the load of that black tax and the amount of sacrifice that person had to go through. Self-sacrificing, hoping that if I continue to send this money home, I give them support, and beyond the support, I've given them responsibility. But are they responsible enough? They were not empowered, you know. That family was not empowered to be able to handle resources, you know. Awesome. Richard, what's the
Thank you very much.
engagement?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let us appreciate Nancy for those very wonderful points she has given unto us. There is Josephine who is saying she fears being cast, or generally sometimes we give so that we avoid being cast. To cast as hold water. Then there is Miriam, your pal. Unfortunately, when you need them to help you back or help your child, they will not give you back. They forget you helped them. There's something I want you to comment about. Those two things. Comment on those two things. And then there is Eda Kangede. She has spoken about that Messiah complex. You know, there is that problem of having Messiah complex. That from Messiah complex, then you go to CASES and helping in order so that you can also get help when you need.
All right, super. And I like that, the ability to be able to tell Messiah complex. And that is where I was talking about the compassion for the rescuer cycle. Now, the Messiah complex is when somebody thinks that they can be able to save the whole world, just like the way Jesus, died for our sins. And so our sins are forgiven and we were saved. So that's the complex people carry with them. So they think the more I continue to give, the more I will save people. The thing that lacks on that is the personal responsibility to sustain yourself with what you have been given. You know, as with the Messiah complex, you have been given salvation, but you are expected to sustain that salvation by not doing or breaking the commandments. So how can you then create a system that they know, if I go beyond this, I'm actually creating offense, or I'm not being within what is expected of me, you know? That's how I'd like to bring that Messiah complex into this conversation. And also maybe for somebody who has that, they need to reflect on themselves. They need to look at, what are you trading you're saving the entire community or family with in terms of yourself, right? Do you need to build more skills? Maybe you don't need to keep sending everything home. Maybe you need to pay as your school so that you have more skills so you can be better marketable. And when you're better marketable, you have more within your basket to support that family, as opposed to making them think that now their problems have been solved because you got this job immediately. And those who make it fast in families end up carrying this burden. Okay. Then fear of being cast. Those are the obligations and guilt, guilt maybe you live with, and the obligation that you have been conditioned to think that you should operate that way, So you need to audit that and look at how true that is and what probably you're overlooking. Because as I said, a system requires different people to play their role to keep it running. So do you just think that the entire responsibility is on you? Or can you be able to start bringing other people into it so that you don't overextend yourself? Helping is okay. We have to help from a point of love, from a point of abundance, and from a point of sustainability. If you're not able to do that, then you will end up still in this same cycle, the rescuer cycle. Then somebody said lack of dependency, like they are not able to come through for you when you need them to come through for you, right? And this is where identity now comes in. Because if when you are helping, you didn't teach them or they didn't learn sustainability, or that their contribution actually matters, or that if they do something, you can acknowledge it, then they will never feel like I need to exert myself. And there was a point I said earlier where if sometimes you include someone who was not on the list of being helped and family members get to know that, there is aggression that goes on. So if then with your support, there was aggression that has continued for a long time, the people you expect to come through for you might shy away from coming through in their own ways because they've been put down for so long. Meaning you are not supporting a healthy system, you are supporting a dysfunctional system. Over to you, Richard.
Thank you very much. I can see Weldon Ruto is saying that it requires a lot of discipline and courage to mark the boundaries where your responsibilities end. Probably you can tell us, where do we get this courage from? And I can see somebody is asking, what are some of the polite words of saying no?
All right, where do we get the courage from and polite saying no? I hear you. By the way, a no is a complete sentence. So sometimes it's with the tone you say the no. So for example, if you said no, or you said no, not now, So it's a complete sentence. You don't need to explain your no, right? But you can also say, this month I'm not able to come through. I probably will need 2 or 3 months to see if it is possible. Then I'll get back to you, right? Or you can say, I'm quite, spent. I don't see myself being able to meet that requirement now. And that's still okay because you're communicating where you are, okay? Then for the person asking for the courage and where it begins from self-audit. You have to audit yourself because Black Tax looks at finances. So where are you financially? Where are you in terms of your goals, right? Where are you in terms of personal development and relationships? What are the things you want to achieve, Where are you in terms of skills? Right? Because if you audit yourself, then you can be able to create a priority list on what is important, right? The things that are non-negotiable is if someone is struggling with health. Okay? If someone is struggling with health, then that's not negotiable to say, we will overlook their sickness and they're your family member. We will overlook their sickness because I have to do. That's the one that I can say. The human in you requires to take care of. But the other things like food, like, contributing, like buying clothes or, having to eat very luxurious, those ones are not quite necessary. So it's important for you to audit and look at, as a person, am I at a level where I'm happy with myself and I feel that I can be able to give out of generosity, not out of obligation, right? And if it's an obligation, then can you be able to break that obligation down to what is realistic for you? Because sometimes obligations are not realistic. So can you be able to break it down to what's realistic? And you see, with black tax, there's also comparison and competition happening within the community setting, So a neighbor can be able to probably do more than you're doing, and you're being guilt-tripped to do as much as the neighbor's son or daughter is doing. So in this game, you do not compare yourself with what somebody else is giving, because your identity is not tied to the resources you give. Your identity is tied to how you feel about yourself. Over to you, Richard.
Very good. I can see Dr. Faith Kinuthia saying, avoid creating a pattern of helping. You condition people to keep borrowing. Then I can see Hudson Sverenge saying, the tree that bears fruit will be stoned. Nobody appreciates your support and help however much you help. And I can see Dorothy Moindi saying, very educative, black tax can drain someone financially and socially. As you prepare for your parting shot, also you can place the link so that our new visitors can join, so that the discussions can continue from there.
All right.
Paul is going to post the link. Black tax is too painful. That is from Jackie Ajeng. One person here in Uganda committed suicide when she came back after 20 years and found no house. Yet she has been sending money to her family to put structures in place.
Yeah.
I can see who else is saying. Liz Amolo said loss of identity can lead to depression. What are your parting shots?
All right. So my parting shot is with my last slide here, where I want everyone to think about loving with boundaries, creating a framework which allows support, love, generosity, and that is sustainable. Because when you think about sustenance, it's like savings, it's like that bucket of water under a tap that is dripping a drop every time. So sustainability is picking that bucket and saying, what we are going to collect is supposed to support us for the future. So if it is you collecting, first build on you before you give out, extravagantly at your own peril, right? And if you're open to having this discussion further, Richard and Grace Atara Solution will be sharing my contacts together with the presentation so we can explore it. Asante.
Very good, because I can see somebody who said that they need a lot of discussion so that they can get healed. They are yet to be redeemed. My friend, the one who has said that you need redemption through many discussions, you can reach out to Grace so that you can get in touch to Nancy so that you can have a sit down and see how you can get redeemed. Thank you so much. Until the next Tuesday, when again we shall demystify another concept. Thank you so much for creating time. We appreciate you very much. Thank you very much for those people who found time to be in Meru. Good night.
Asante sana.
Liz Amoro, very informative. Peter, thanks. Who else has said something? Caroline, thank you very much. Very insightful. Grace Atieno, thank you very much for the session. Very insightful, very informative. Dr. Faith, thank you very much. Very insightful. Asante sana by Pamela Onyango. Then we have Radiant Kiats. Mbona umesmile hivyo, unajua huyo? Ni kama unamjua.
I'm happy to hear that it's insightful because,
Okay.
you know, black tax
Right.
is a broad topic.
All right.
Yeah.
Samuel Mwandikwa, thank you for the session. Nancy Njogu, thank you very much. Thank you very much, our friends in Uganda, our friends in Rwanda, our friends in TZ. Thank you so much. See you on Tuesday. Continue spreading the gospel of getting it right. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Karibu, karibu.
Feels like flying. I close my eyes. Oh God, I think I'm falling out of the sky. I close my eyes. Heaven help me when you call my name. It's like a little prayer down on my knees. I wanna take you there in the midnight hour. I can feel your power, just like a prayer. You know I'll take you there like a child. You whisper softly to me. You're in control, just like a child. Now I'm dancing. It's like a dream. No end and no beginning. You're here with me. It's like a dream. Let the choir sing when you call my name. It's like a little prayer down on my knees. I wanna take you there in the midnight hour. I can feel your power, just like a prayer. You know I'll take you there when you call my name. It's like a little prayer down on my knees. I wanna take you there in the midnight hour. I can feel your power, just like a prayer. You know I'll take you there. Just like a prayer, your voice can take me there. Just like news to me, you are a mystery. Just like a dream, you are not what you seem. Just like a prayer, no choice, your voice can take me there. Just like a prayer, I'll take you there. It's like a dream to me. Just like a prayer, I'll take you there. It's like a dream to me. Just like a prayer. When you close your